HD, ND, RYT, Neuropath, Holistic Healer, and Counselor. Welcome.
Thank you. So I've been asked to do a short presentation on some of the books that I've written, some of the work that I do. One of the earliest books that I wrote is a book called Words from Music and Other Poems. I wrote this book approximately 40 plus years ago. I was a bit younger, and the nature of this book is part of it has what I call ghetto songs, which are songs related to the Holocaust experience. Myself and my family went through the Holocaust, and it was very important for me at that time to write about some of my early childhood experiences. So that is what is included in here, in addition to a number of other poems that have to do with life in general at that time. The second book that I wrote, the book after that, was a book called The Gentle Path. The Gentle Path is a book of yogic exercises and calisthenics exercises for seniors. This is a chair program that I developed approximately in 1970. Before chair yoga was really that widely spread. I developed it for the Y in New York, and it became a popular program. It still is. My own involvement with yoga began in 1958, so quite a while ago, and I was very fortunate to have some very good teachers and have some very good guidance in my yogic practice. I've been meditating since that time. So much of my practice involves both the physical aspects of yoga as well as the meditative aspects, or the Raja Yoga, the mental aspects. So that's a second book that I wrote. Some of the more recent works are a book called Kabbalah in Motion. I've been involved with teaching and studying Kabbalah for many years, since 1970. People have asked me, are you a master at Kabbalah? I find that a little humorous. Anyone who has studied Kabbalah would probably realize that you could spend many lifetimes on this study and probably scratch the surface. Kabbalah comes from the word lekabel, to receive, and it means the received knowledge traditionally that was given by God to Adam, and that has passed down through many lineages, primarily through the Jewish tradition, but there is a form of Kabbalah that is Christian, that is Gnostic. There is a Kabbalah that's practiced by the Sufis. So it is a universal wisdom tradition that's come down from very ancient sources. The most recent book that I'm working on actually traces these ancient sources of wisdom, and hopefully that book will be completed. It is completed. We're in the editing stages, and I expect that it will be out in April. I'm very excited about that book. It's led me into some very deep research, some very interesting channels of ancient civilizations. So this is Kabbalah in Motion. Kabbalah also is representative of a system called the Tree of Life, which is said to be the blueprint of the universe, namely that the entire universe is structured along the lines of this blueprint, or is built on this blueprint, or this model, or this paradigm. So in the beginning of this book, there is a general introduction of Kabbalah, and the reason I call it Kabbalah in Motion is because of my yogic background. Toward the second half of this book, I've combined a series of yogic movements, combined or integrated or synchronized with Kabbalistic meditations. So it becomes a very deep system of movement, which is working on many levels of the mind simultaneously. The next book I wrote was Meditation, a Practitioner's Handbook. I'd say this is perhaps my personal favorite. It is a real a really a deep introduction to meditation, even though it's a beginning introduction. It deals with meditation on all its levels. It is certainly good for beginners and good for people who have considerable background. It brings in aspects of ritual, it discusses ritual, it discusses what meditation is from a scientific point of view as well as an esoteric point of view. So it brings together the esoteric sciences and the modern sciences, or occult science and modern science. It deals with systems of the mind. On top of ritual, we discuss mantra, or the yoga of sound, nad yoga, and yantra, the idea of visual yoga as a visual system. So yantra really uses a system of visualization where we might be using a mandala or some other form of visual point of focus. So that's Meditation, a Practitioner's Handbook. The last book I'll mention, I have 3 other books besides these, but they're out of print. So the last book I'll mention at this time is my latest book of poetry, which I'm particularly fond of. It's a book called Moonrights. In this book, I have done my best to really integrate pagan and ancient rituals, ancient concepts of cosmology, especially cycles of the moon and how they relate to various cosmologies, with a good deal of astrophysics and modern science. These are 2 areas that have always interested me. I've always been interested in both the area of occult science and the area of modern science. So the language of both is contained herein, and this book represents a synthesis of these that brings them together, because the deeper that I have delved into these topics, the more I've become aware that ancient systems, although they spoke in a different language, perhaps a metaphoric language or a symbolic language, really were dealing with very similar scientific concepts that today we place into a different idiom, or a different universe of discourse. A universe of discourse, of course, means a particular language for a particular field of knowledge. So these are the 5 books that I wanted to basically speak about. The latest book that I have coming out, as I said, is a real a tracing or a research into the most ancient civilizations, from Sumer through Chaldean through Akkadian, certainly moving through Persia and Greece and so on, into 3 systems of self-transformation, and how that wisdom tradition has passed down through the millennia, through the thousands of years, how it's come down into these refined systems called the Tantra Kundalini system, the Tree of Life, or the Kabbalah, and the I Ching. It's fascinating for me to have traced their numerologies, their cosmologies, and really seen how they've evolved into these amazing systems that are in use today. So it's been an exciting journey for me to go back into ancient civilizations, discover these connections, and when my book comes out, hopefully to share them with you.